Hi guys, I'm Mike. Hello and welcome to the Vale Beaver Monitor Farm, where today you join me for a bit of an overview. We're going to have a run round and look at the different crops that we've got, talk about what's gone to plan, what hasn't gone to plan, and yeah, just see how we're getting on really. So for those of you who don't know us, we're a mixed arable farm with arable and laying chickens, about 550 hectares or so, mixture between heavy clays and then about 200 hectares of more of a sandy loam. So like every autumn, we start with a plan as to roughly what we're going to drill and what we're going to do, and this year we've followed pretty much none of it. Talking winter wheat, we planned to plant about 220 hectares. We managed to get 96 of those hectares in the ground, all on our light sands. Couldn't touch the heavy clay, it was just too wet. So we got that in, and then 45 hectares of it ended up being re-drilled because it just came, sat wet, yeah, just didn't come. So we re-drilled that. Still doesn't look great, but it is there. So then we waited for the frosts, and we got 2 mornings of frost, so that's another 10 hectares in the ground, so that went well. So then we thought, what we're going to do. So what we did is, our main drill is an Amazon Cayenne. So we took the coulters off that and sort of harrow at the back, and we mounted it to an old subsoiler frame. And we had to go with that, planted another 50 or so hectares, and it looks all right. It's definitely not great, but it's a bit more wheat in the ground. So yeah, we'll just have to see how that goes. So now, today we've got about 150 hectares in the ground. We'll just have to see what comes of that really. Yeah. So this field that I'm stood in right now is actually one of the fields that went to plan. It is home saved Gleam, drilled at 160 kilos a hectare on the 30th of October. So yeah, sounds like it went to plan, and it has. It looks good. Few issues. Number one, I don't know if you can see on the camera, but it's not actually that even. It's droughting in patches all over the shop. Not badly yet, so hopefully it'll just pick up and come back. Yeah, dependent on that thing from up there. We'll see what happens there. It's not all as good as this. There are patches that haven't come. They're sat wet. Like every field we've got, to be honest. Every field is missing patches and bits, and yeah, but overall it looks good. Second crop of the day now, and no, it's not wheat. This is winter triticale. Triticale, for those of you who don't know, it's like wheat but generally yields a little bit less. So why are we growing it? Well, a few reasons. One, although it's not competitive as a first wheat, it is competitive as a second wheat. So we've kind of used it to replace our second wheats. Secondly, we've got chickens, and protein content of triticale is generally higher, so it works very well for us for feeding. Thirdly, it's quite vigorous and quite tall, so it's probably more competitive than wheat with grassland or grassy fields, of which we're in one. So yeah, we use it for those reasons really. So this field that we're stood in right now, this is a field of winter Casenio, which was drilled on the 7th of February at 230 kilos a hectare. And we drilled it with that tine drill that we made. It's come all right. It came better than our heavy land. This field's a bit strange for us because we ploughed it. We don't do ploughing historically, or not for 15 years anyway. So this was an experiment. It was really bad grassland, both ryegrass and blackgrass. So yeah, we ploughed it. Thought we'll bury it. Not been ploughed in many years. We'll bury the grass and see how it gets on. Has it worked? Well, if we have a look, I would argue no, sadly. There are lots of these little buggers around. So yeah, we'll just have to see how we get on. It's not going to be great. A lot of you are probably saying this should be sprayed off. It's probably not going to be sprayed off. We need it. Yeah, don't know if that's right or wrong. Probably wrong, but yeah, here we go. The field on general, apart from the grass, looking pretty good. There were patches, I don't know if you can see the yellowing over there, that was probably manganese. We're a bit late getting that on, but it's coming back. And also, if you look, we put compost on last week. So yeah, it'll all give it a boost, hopefully bring it up. And yeah, we had planned to plant 40 hectares, but in the end we've ended up with about 20 hectares. Yeah, plans change. So yeah, see how this does, but it's more crop in the ground. If you are thinking about triticale, then would I recommend it? Well, yeah, we've been growing it 5 years, we've got on pretty well with it. Just make sure you've got a market for it. That's the main hurdle with it really for most people. There are stories of people mixing it in with wheat. Don't think that's particularly clever to do, but yeah. Otherwise, yeah, good crop, works relatively well for us. So yeah, on to the oilseed rape then. This year we planted about 108 hectares. It was all planted in the first week of September with a subsoiler, with a coulter behind it. Went in pretty well, but then the month of September came and it was actually really dry here, and it just didn't quite get going, and the flea beetles have eaten most of it. A little bit of slugs, but mainly flea beetles. And today we're left with about 20 hectares. So yeah, 88 hectares lost. But here we are in a field of acacia, which is alright. There aren't the most pods in the world, but there are some there. Not in the best bit of the field, and blackgrass. So yeah, realistically, long term, I don't think we'll be planting any at all this year. We've said that before. This time it's a little bit more conclusive, to be fair. We lost, I think on average, nearly £200 a hectare last year on our rape, which is a lot, and this year it's going to be worse with all the costs we've had. So yeah, as you'll see later on, we're looking at different replacements for it. I haven't found anything amazing yet, but we keep trying. So yeah, on to the barley then. Our original plan was to plant 40 hectares of winter barley. We get on very well with winter barley normally, and that didn't go in this year. So we upped our spring barley. We were planning about 60 hectares. We've actually ended up with 130 hectares, some of that being wheat ground. And it went in on the 31st of March, this particular field, at 190 kilos a hectare. And yeah, well, it's gone in like this. It's thin, there's lots of grass, and the grass is heading. So what are we doing about it? Well, that's a patch that's sprayed off, but now the whole field's coming out. In fact, we're ripping about 50 hectares of the 130 out. So yeah, another hit, but this was felt too bad and too rubbish to keep. So yeah, that is where we are with the barley. Another field of oilseed rape then. Yeah, beans, as it turns out. This, yeah, was oilseed rape, got eaten like many things. So we planted beans on the 3rd of April, winter beans. Apparently they don't require vernalisation, so we're testing that theory. They're in the ground, it will be interesting. Yeah, we'll see how we get on. They're up, they look quite nice when you look at them, but they've got their problems like everything else this year. So when you start looking, they're being eaten, surprise surprise, weevils apparently. So this has had 2 hits of insecticide already. Yeah, it's just not getting away, it's the moisture. The moisture is holding them back like everything else. So hopefully we get a bit more and these get going, and yeah, we'll harvest them. When will we harvest them? End of September? Middle of October? Good question. But the field's in good nick. Yeah, this should be ready to direct drill straight after combining. So hopeful. It could end up being well, could end up being a disaster, but it's better than bare ground. Yeah. So now we're into one of the crops that we're looking at replacing oilseed rape with, and this is linseed. This is our third year of growing it. First year was a bit of a disaster. It just didn't work. We made a good loss. But we stuck at it. Second year, drilled 50 hectares last year and made a good profit on all of them. Yeah, came well. What did we do? We upped the seed rate. It's got a familiar predator, beetles. Yeah, but we've dealt with them, and this year we've drilled 80 hectares, and this is how it's looking now. So this is a variety called Empress, drilled at 90 kilos per hectare. Looking rather well, can't fault it. So far so good, just a bit thirsty like a lot of things. So yeah, keep going with this one, see how we get on. Final crop of the day then, and no, this isn't a desert. This was, surprisingly enough, another field of oilseed rape, which has been lost to a combination of flea beetle and slugs. Slugs were my fault, I didn't watch it carefully enough. So what have we done? Well, we ripped it up and we put something called millet in. I don't know a lot about millet, I suspect many of you won't. So what is it? Well, it's just poking through, and I'm told it's a grass, and we're growing it for the seed, for bird seed producers. So yeah, we'll see how we get on. It's very low input, and also I'm told it's quite drought tolerant, which is going to be useful this year, isn't it? So yeah, we'll see how we get on. It's just another replacement for rape really, just as a trial. It's only going to find out. But yeah, planted 1st of May, 60 kilos a hectare, paid an awful lot for the seed. But yeah, it's an experiment, and we'll see how we get on. That's it for today then. Thanks very much for watching. Hopefully you found some of it interesting, some of it depressing, some of it makes you feel better, I don't know. But yeah, we'll be back to do another update at some point in the future. Just, yeah, keep running through how the farm's doing. Thanks for watching. See ya.